I heard from the grapevine that you used to smoke weed. Is that true?
Nilikuwa navuta bangi.
Ulikuwa navuta bangi. Hi and welcome back to I Have Been Meaning to Ask. Mellen, it's so good to have you on my bench today. But first things first, tell us about Mellen.
We're two. My mom. We have me from a different relationship. I didn't get a chance to meet my dad. The most I have conversation with him was on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, and we disconnected.
So you are two?
We're two.
You and your sister and your mother.
Yeah.
Tell me about college, because that's where
My
this
life.
story kind of begins.
For me, my mom put me as a boarder, and I didn't want to be a boarder, and I kept telling her I didn't want to be a boarder. But she was like, you need to learn how to, be independent, figure out your budget, and be alone for a while.
I hear nowadays you go to uni and it's, for lack of a better word, it's like party after party.
It is.
Is that the truth?
It's true.
Okay.
So in uni is when I was introduced to weed. When I was in uni, I had slowed down on drinking, and then now weed became my choice of drug.
Okay.
That's why I started. Yeah.
Okay. So you started doing weed.
I started
you were
doing
still
weed.
doing alcohol.
Yes.
What else were you doing?
I think the most disgusting thing I've eaten is mira.
Eating. So you've chewed mira.
I've chewed mira. I've chewed mogoka. It's a disgusting habit.
Any hard drugs?
Max hard drugs I've had is ecstasy. That's the hardest I've ever gone.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was exposed to heroin and cocaine. I had a boyfriend when I was 16. He was 17. And one day he asked me if we could do heroin together. He said we had never done anything special
That
together.
was the special stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
so
real special.
he wanted us to shoot up. So he removed the, why am I remembering this now? He removed the syringe.
Feel free.
He removed the syringe and he was like, let's do heroin together. Okay. And I was like, no. But I was 16, yeah.
You were freaked out?
I'd freaked out. There's nothing, I hadn't done anything at that point in my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I said no. And it was like,
nothing special?
There was nothing special, yes.
Okay. What else? What else were you, what else are you involved with in college?
In college, it was just drinking, smoking, and sex. Because nobody knows if you have classes or not. There's no accountability. There's no one checking
up
on you. Yeah. And if they are, you can lie. No one is physically coming to school to find you. And for me, my mom didn't even want me over on the weekends. So she never knew anything when she would find me. So there was one day, we smoked up. So the guy who used to give us weed used to buy his own stone from his shags in Mount Kenya. So he would roll his own weed. So this time the weed was finished. So we had to buy from somebody else. And the guy who we bought from used to lace his weed with cocaine. We didn't know at that time. So we bought weed, we were just a group of guys and I was the only girl there. So we smoked up. And then every one of us noticed, we could feel it was different. The high was too high. And I freaked out. And I was like, let me go to my dorm. And then I come back because I was in the guys' hall. So I said, let me go to my dorm and get something and come back. I had my keys, I had some cash, and I had my phone. So I walked from the hostel till the gate, got a mat from Rongai till South B, high, like completely high.
Where were you heading?
Home. I didn't know anywhere else to go but home. So I get home, my mom opens the door, she starts yelling at me and I'm like, I could have been raped. Something could have happened to me. So later on in life, I told her what had happened, but I didn't tell her how I got high. Because how was I going to explain?
Okay.
So I told her one day I was drugged and I came home and you started yelling at me and I was afraid. So home, instead of being a safe haven, I couldn't go home when I wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about the pregnancy.
Yeah.
At 19, you got pregnant.
Yeah.
You're in college. You're still trying to figure out your way.
Yeah.
You're living the life of a party.
Yeah.
Then here comes a pregnancy.
Yeah.
What did you do?
So I called my boyfriend, my then boyfriend, and I told him I was over home for the weekend and we were supposed to meet on a Sunday. So I called him and I told him, I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, what do you mean you think you're pregnant? I'm like, I think I'm pregnant. He's like, so what are you gonna do? I said, can you buy me a pregnancy test? We meet, we test. And he's like, no. You find out and then you'll tell me. So I went to school on Monday. I bought a pregnancy test. I tested and it was positive. So I called him and I said, it's positive. And he's like, okay. And I said, I'm coming to your place. So I passed by the chemist. I got 5 more pregnancy tests.
5 more?
5 more.
For good measure?
For good, because I was like, there's no way. So I get to his place. We do the 5 tests.
They're all positive?
They're all positive. And I was like, okay. So he says, we're not ready to have a baby, because his cousin had just had a baby, like around our age, and was telling, you guys are not ready. So we had scheduled to get an abortion the next day. So I get home, I sleep, because my mom is like, you were just here over the weekend, it's Monday. She's like, why did you come back? I said, I don't have classes, I just want to stay home. She's like, okay, sawa. So in the morning she left. That night I had a dream that I had the abortion. I came back home, I overbled, and I died.
Wow. So you are now getting ready to get the abortion?
I was like, so am I willing to die?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, okay.
Yeah.
So I call my mom and I tell her, hi mom, I think I'm pregnant. And she's like, you think or you know? I was like, I think.
I like your mom, she's a straight shooter.
She's straightforward.
Yeah. Zero emotion.
Nothing.
Yeah.
She's like, do you think or you know? I was like, I think. And she said, you have bus fare to go to school, right? Yeah. Go to the clinic, get a pregnancy test, and then call me. This was my 7th pregnancy test at this point. I knew I was pregnant. So I got the test, and I called her, and I'm like, so I'm pregnant. So she knew who my boyfriend was, and she was like, so what have you decided? So I tell her I haven't told him yet, because I wanted her to think she was the first person I was telling. So she says, call him and then find out what he decides. If he tells you to get an abortion, tell him that's fine. You'll go get the abortion, I'll pay for it, and then you just ghost him. But she said, if you get an abortion, don't come to my house.
Wow.
Don't ever come back.
That's straight up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I told the guy, hi. I told mom. Mom found out I'm pregnant. He was so pissed. He got so angry. He ghosted me for a while. He changed his phone number and he denied that the pregnancy was his.
You didn't get the abortion.
Yeah.
The guy has character developed you.
Yeah.
You're all alone. You're 19 years old.
Yeah.
Your mom has told you this is the route you go.
Yeah.
If you decide this route, don't come back.
Don't come back.
You were out of options. You knew exactly what you must do.
Yeah.
Is to keep the baby.
Yeah.
The baby is how old now?
11.
11. What goes through your mind when you think, I could easily have aborted her?
If you had told me then that this is how our lives would have looked like, I wouldn't have believed you.
Wow.
Because I knew my life was over. Everybody told me, every adult I spoke to told me my life is over, that my life now belongs to my child. I had no life, I had nothing to offer other than to give her a better life and be there.
But you're willing to take that risk because your options were limited.
There was nothing I could do at that point. And I was like, okay. So I had committed to even being in the relationship with this guy. I had committed to doing everything that I was told to do, because I had lived a life where I was doing what I wanted and I saw where it took me.
Let's go back.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the joints, the blunts that you kept smoking. Tell us about that.
So I knew very early when I started smoking, I knew this was going to be something hard for me to let go of, because the high that I would get wasn't the high that I would get in alcohol or cigarettes or anything else I had taken. But it became like a numbing point. For people who would smoke and then have like weird trips, I would just smoke and zen, relax. It was like an escape for me for the longest time. So every time I would get into a depressive state, my go-to would be get a joint and just sleep. Leave it or forget about it.
So
this
you
will make
used
you
to
happy.
smoke to sleep?
Yeah. It was always for good vibes, not for we're about to have an adventure. Yeah.
How many joints would you smoke in a day?
When I started, it wasn't like one joint would do the most. But as I got more into it, I would smoke up to 5 joints in an evening. From like 5 to maybe 9 p.m. or 10 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to fall asleep?
Just to get high and fall asleep.
How readily available are joints?
You can always tell a dealer. Anywhere. You can always tell somebody. At a party, at an estate, it's so easy.
Mellen, were you working at this time?
I've been working since I was in uni. So after school, when I was pregnant, I had to drop out to have the baby. And then when I went back, I couldn't transfer my credits. And I had to wait another year for them to catch up. So I had to start a new course.
Mm-hmm.
By God's grace, I ended up doing the course that I wanted. So my mom at this point was like, you do what you want now. What did you want to study? So I did international relations and diplomacy. And I started again. So I did a diploma and then I did a degree. So by the time 2014, I got my first job in 2015. So I was going to school from 5 to 8, and then from 7 to 4, I'd be at work.
International relations?
Yes.
You've graduated, you've gotten into your first job.
Yeah.
You're still smoking joints. Are you telling me people could be going to work even today?
Yeah.
High?
Yeah.
And you can tell.
And it's not just joints. People get high on cocaine, on ecstasy, on heroin, anything that, and these days joints aren't just cigarettes, like joint.
Yeah.
They're gummy bears, they're cookies, they're brownies. So you can be seeing somebody eat a cake at work and they're having weed cake. You can see somebody having a gummy bear or gum, they're eating a sweet and it's weed. People, they're very...
So don't accept everything that's being offered to you.
No.
Yeah.
Don't.
Oh my goodness.
Don't.
So you can function well under some of these stuff?
Like somebody who takes 5 joints to get extremely high, maybe just to make them energetic, because you know when you're on your downtime for being high, you're sluggish, you're slow, you're not as active.
Yeah.
So you might find whatever they get to get extremely high, because people who use drugs know their
spines, their cycles.
Yes, so they know if I take 2 gummy bears, I can be able to get through work without
Gummy
any
bears,
reaction.
like the little gummy
Yeah.
bears, really? Wow.
Sweets, anything, they're laced in anything these days.
I need you to come check on some of the guys we work with. All right, so
To see.
let's move forward.
Yeah.
How did you move from, tell us about the intensity of where you got to and how that turned around.
So around 2019 was my breaking point. We had gotten back together with the father of my child just to make sure this was going to work out, this wasn't going to work out, or this was going to work out. We felt we were a bit older, we can do this. Only to realize the both of us together was just toxic.
Wow.
We had to admit that we were not good together.
Were you both broken people?
We were completely broken people. And then we were given responsibilities and we were told we had to be. It wasn't something that we decided that we had to be.
Yeah.
So by
society paints a picture that you guys need to come back together because you have a child together.
Yeah, but they don't realize you two together for the child is... I realized something now. There are people who cannot handle what is inside of you. You'll either kill them or it will destroy them.
Or they'll suffocate you.
Yes. So for the both of us, he said I was too demanding. And to be quite honest, there was nothing I was asking of him other than him being present for his family.
Wow.
So if that was demanding, I can't imagine if what is inside of me that God has placed, what it will do to him as a person.
The breaking point.
Yeah. So 2019, we broke up. And I was broken because what else was I gonna do now? We've tried, we have a child, I'd moved out. And now I had to face my mom who had told me, don't do this. and I had done it and he had left. So I got...
Are you saying she had discouraged you from moving in
Yeah.
together with the guy?
My
So
mom-
you were living together?
Yeah, we were living together.
Mom had said no?
My mom had said no. My mom had said no to this relationship from point A. But you know, when you're in love and your parents tell you something else, you're like...
And out of options.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then people would tell you who will marry you with a child.
Yeah.
That was a thing at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we broke up, and my escape was a person who I knew would give me the lifestyle of partying and all these things. So I ran to him, and I was exposed to everything again. When we were together from around 2017 to 2019, I didn't do anything, no drugs, nothing. I was clean. And then 2019, I met this guy again, who was somebody I was in a relationship. The guy who was a drug dealer when I was 16.
You decided to go hang out with a drug dealer?
I decided, but this time he wasn't a drug dealer. He had alikuwa reshape
He had
life.
reformed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all these things were available to him. He knew what to get. So we had ecstasy, we smoked. Everything was available. Drinking, cigarettes, weed, anything you wanted was available. And by the time he was, you know those guys for summer bunnies? Have you ever had that thing, summer bunnies?
No, what is it?
So summer bunnies are guys who work abroad or study abroad, and then they come home for vacation. So they're summer bunnies.
Wow.
And then once they're done, they go back.
Yeah.
So by the time he was going back, I found out I was pregnant, and I was extremely broken. I was addicted to marijuana to the point that it was something that I needed to function with. I was alone. He had left. My relationship had broken. And he was like, why are you stressing? You have a job. I have a job. We're adults. We can get married. But I was looking at him and I was like, this is not what I want. I don't want to live this life. This is not what I envision my life as.
You didn't sign up for this.
I didn't sign up for this. And I'm looking at that baby and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do with 2 kids, with 2 different dads? And I'm looking at my life and I'm saying, oh my gosh, the pattern has gone again.
Wow.
So the pregnancy had a lot of complications, and at some point I just woke up one day. We got paid. It was around February. We got paid, and I just went and I scheduled for an abortion. And that, you know, when you're going to get it done, you don't think it's gonna be heavy as when it comes back. So afterwards, and then mine, even the abortion had a complication. So I remembered the dream that I was gonna die. And it was for real, I was gonna die. If I didn't go again, I was gonna die. So I went, I cleaned up everything, and then I went back home. So now I was broken from my relationship, and now I had something that I had done. Nobody knew.
Wow.
I was alone. Everyone knew I was pregnant, but then they all knew I had a miscarriage because the pregnancy was really bad. So I was alone, broken, high, and now I had this thing hovering over me, and the enemy was repeating it every single day. You did this, you did this, you did this, and you did this. So at that point I was like, so what's the point of living? If this is how my life is gonna be like, I don't wanna live. I don't want to live with this thing hanging over me.
Yeah.
And this guy didn't know. And I'm so sorry, this is how he's gonna find out. And I was done. I was gonna end my life and just continue
And
going
you were
forward.
certain you wanted to commit suicide?
I was done, because that heaviness is not, no one can explain it.
And no one can feel it around
No one
you.
can feel it, and no one knows what you're going through. You're broken. You have this thing hovering over you, and the enemy doesn't stop, I can tell you. And that voice rings over and over and over again. So I was done. I was like, now the weed became the silencer for this pain. So one day I just tell God, so if I die, if I kill myself, will I come to heaven? Because I was saved. See, you're being told salvation is never taken away, it's never revoked.
Yeah.
So I was like, will I come to heaven?
So you were still communicating with God through this entire
and I'm high.
Episode. So
Yeah.
you smoked your joints for the
I
night.
smoked my joint for the night. I think I was at joint 5 because I would do 5 to... This guy's weed wasn't that strong, but for people it would do the thing, but for me it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So I get to my joint and I'm like, okay, so God, if I kill myself, will I come to you? And it's like, I don't know you. And I blacked out.
Wow. God told you,
I don't know you.
I don't know you.
I don't know you.
I don't recognize who you are.
So he says, so the next day, I go about my normal day. I come back home, I cook, because you can't cook when you're high. Utachoma nyumba.
What is the craziest thing that happened when you were high?
I'm telling you, my highness wasn't for tripping.
Your highness.
My highness. The maximum thing I've done is jump over a roof to a next roof.
Okay, that's not small.
That's just a bit trippy, but it wasn't that bad.
It's not as bad as the guy who was driving around
looking for himself, and he was one driving.
He was high.
Yeah. No.
That's crazy.
We didn't trip like that.
So let's go back. So what happened?
So the next day, I just wake up. I go about my day. I go to work. I come back home. I cook. I smoke my cigarettes. I smoke my weed, and I just sit there. For some reason, I just broke down and I told God, okay, help me. If for real, help me. Help me. This pain needs to stop.
Were you that desperate? You needed to hear something from God, or were you just speaking?
I can't even tell you what was it. What I wanted to stop was the guilt that I had. The guilt that what I had done, that I had an abortion, and even just saying it now. When I would tell, because I went to therapy, I had to go to therapy. When I would tell my therapist every time I couldn't say the word, it was a trigger word. And I realized slowly, it stopped being a trigger word for me. And that's when I knew God had healed me. So anyway, back there. So I tell God, I need this to stop. I need the voices to stop. I need the pain to stop. I need this feeling to stop. And sure, as it happened, immediately after I said those words, I vomited. I vomited everything. I felt like I was vomiting the cigarettes, the weed, and I blacked out. And when I woke up in the morning, I was just saying it was a bad trip. So a bad trip is when you smoke and then you just zone. Yeah. So a bad trip is that you have a bad experience. So I just thought I was having a bad experience. And so the next day, my routine is the same. I come, I had food from the previous night, and I just smoked my cigarette, and I couldn't retain the taste.
The taste, it felt new.
It
like
felt
never had.
Disgusting. I wanted to puke it out. I couldn't smoke it. And I had a pack. I was like, what am I going to do with all this cigarettes?
How much do you used to smoke a day?
A whole pack. I could do a whole pack.
A day?
And I didn't smoke during the day, so I would smoke when I get to my house. Nobody knew. No one knew, only the shopkeeper. So that the shopkeeper doesn't judge me, I would buy from different shops to make the pack full. So I'd buy 2 cigarettes here, 7 cigarettes here, 5, just to make my pack. So that they're not like, hey madam, si ulijununua tu jana packet mzima. So that's how I would hide my addictions. And I would switch dealers just so that they're not like, hey, nimemaliza stock. Yeah, so I come home, I smoke the cigarettes, I couldn't retain the taste. So the next day I tried, I couldn't retain the taste, I stopped. For weed, it took a while for it to get out of my system. So now I was okay, I couldn't smoke, I could sleep, but then the weed had reduced. So when I would do 5, I would do 4, I would do 3. Eventually, one day I tried smoking a joint, and I just had God say stop. Never again.
God told you?
Stop.
This was the last joint?
This was the last joint. And that was indeed the last joint. So...
they say it stays in the system for about 8 years.
Kama zinararuka.
So it stopped?
I stopped, and then I got fired. And it was the best time of my life during COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
2020.
2020. I used to tell somebody, and I know a lot of people had very bad experiences, but I felt like the world stopped for me to meet God, to experience God. And I started as small as reading the Bible from the beginning, from Genesis, and I just said, okay, I want to know who you are. Explain to me who you are.
So you had a break, a time to learn.
A whole year.
An entire year.
An entire year. And then that was 2020 May to 2021 May. And then since I was so used to working, I was so used to taking care of myself and my daughter I told you I was working when I was in uni. So I asked God for a job, and He gave me a job.
Tell us about that job. How did you even end up there?
I ended up at a job where that was the most frustrating 3 months of my life. Like, I knew God had called me to ministry, but all I was allowed to do was share devotions online. So my page became, every day we had a devotion. On Wednesday we had a recording. People got saved. People would DM me and be like, so explain to me this verse. Tell me. And I'm learning as well. So anything I would learn, I would share. And then you'd find people being like, can you pray with me? So many people would come and tell me, I had an experience where my life has collapsed. What do I do? And I'm like, all I can tell you is God, because that's all I know. And I would share pieces of my story. So most of them, if they watch this, they'll be like, oh, so this is what she was talking about. But the 3 months frustration. So I asked God, okay, so you gave me a job to tell me that this was not what you wanted me to do ever again. So I quit. And He's like, I've been taking care of you for a whole year. Let me continue to take care of you. And I quit my job, and then I come home and I'm like, okay, fine. So I want to invest in I want to get a nice camera. I want to get audio so that I can do my videos and do my devotions. Yeah. And then my sister tells me, did you hear in church that they're announcing there's an internship? Why don't you apply so that you learn how to do ministry? And I was like, sure, send me the number. So I got the details, and then I tell her, you're not doing anything either. Why don't you apply? We go together. So we get to the interview, and I'm like, this is what I've come to do, ministry.
Tell me about the interview.
So we get to the interview. So her interview was earlier than mine. So we go together. She went earlier, and I show up.
Your sisters?
Yeah, my sister now was leaving. I was coming in. So we sit at the interview, and they ask me, so tell us who Mellen is. And I broke down. I cried.
Why did you cry?
I cried because I was introducing somebody I'd never introduced to anybody.
That's so powerful.
This girl who was sitting at a church interviewing for a ministry internship to be a pastor, you know, somebody who was addicted to marijuana, somebody who had a child at 19, somebody who had just had an abortion, somebody who had been broken, was sitting there introducing herself, and she was alive. Somebody who wanted to kill herself, and she was alive.
Wow, you know, Mellen, when I hear your story, it's, you know, I ask myself, how many people out there are faced with maybe a fraction of what you've experienced and are wanting to give up, are ready to commit suicide? They're saying, look, I've tried whatever I can. I just want you to take a minute and just stare into that camera right now and speak to a past Mellen. What would you tell yourself?
To a past Mellen, I know it's hard. If there's anybody who knows that it's hard, it's me. I know what it means to be broken. I know what it means that people don't see that you're broken. And I know how heavy it is to know what you've been through, what you've done. And you're asking yourself, how will I come out of this house, or how will I come out of this situation and face the world? I can tell you, you can do it. But the only person who's going to get you out of there is God. It's not a human being. It's not anybody else. And it's time for you to ask for help. you won't die alone, and He doesn't want you to die. You're stronger than you think. You're gonna have joy again. You're gonna be happy again. You're going to smile. And I can tell you for free, and this is how I feel now. Me sharing what I've been through and what I did, knowing very well what I was doing, God forgives and God restores. My story is not heavy because of shame or because of what people will think. It's because God removed it from my heart. And when He said He forgave me and He restored me. The girl you're looking at is not the girl who existed in 2020. This is a version of me that girl didn't believe was gonna be possible. And it's possible. With Him, with God, it's possible. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, your story is so inspiring. Mellen, are you single?
I am.
You're single? Wow. I mean,
I'm single.
You know, there's a bunch of people out there right now. Maybe you've scared a few dudes or whatever.
Today.
But you know, there's someone out there saying,
yeah,
if she's single, I want to get to know her, because
shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. Now you heard it from her. Shoot your shot. What
Yeah.
she's saying, in other words, is she's open to mingle. Mellen,
Yeah.
the story is so encouraging. It's so beautiful to see you today here seated, and I know what people say, the people who work very closely with you. I mean, rave reviews
Yes.
about what God has been able to do through you.
Yeah.
And to think that you're coming from such a quote-unquote crazy
Yeah.
past,
Yeah.
and God has completely transformed your life.
Yeah.
I know that there is hope, and I also know that you have a great future. I'm so excited. And I can't wait to see how many people's lives will be transformed just by your story.
Amen.
And even for that husband,
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You can't
because
wait.
you will have a beautiful family.
Amen.
Guys, you've heard it. We've been meaning to ask Mellen. She's on the bench. She has spoken her heart. May that testimony change someone's life forever. Thank you, Mellen.
Thank you
Asante
for
sana.
having
God
me.
bless you.
God bless you too.
Asante.
Thank you.